All right, so in this video, we're going to go ahead and look at lipids. So lipids are also known as fats, but fats are not bad for us. Fat is actually good. We're going to need it in our bodies. So what are they made out of? They're made out of mostly carbon and hydrogen. Fats are non-polar. Or lipids in general are non-polar. So they're carbons and hydrogens, a little bit of oxygen, but I'm going to put low amounts. And then in phospholipids only, we're going to see phosphorus and nitrogen only in phospholipids for both of these guys. Okay, so it's mostly carbons and hydrogens, and then sometimes you're going to get these other three little guys in there. Okay, and the biological purpose of fats is a bunch of different things. They can be messengers, they can be insulation, they can be protection, structure, energy storage, all kinds of things. We're going to see the usefulness of fats in a little bit. So there's three major classes of lipids. Really, the reason why something is in the class of lipids is that it's nonpolar. That's really all the thing that they have in common. So we're going to look at fatty acids. We're going to look at phospholipids. And then we're going to look at steroids. And there is no monomer to these guys. There's no way, there's no like basic building block like an amino acid or a saccharide or a nucleotide. There's none of that with our lipids. They're kind of the weird ones of the bunch. So fatty acids, where are they found? They're found in an organism as fats and oils. They're also the component of cell membranes. So they can be part of cell membranes. Not the main part, but that's actually not true too. Functions. So we're going to see some energy storage. That's probably the where fats get their bad name, right? Because if we're getting energy storage, we're storing things as fat, so we get fatter, generally speaking, right? But if you're a bear and you're about to go hibernate, and you live in Alaska, you're going to need that for insulation, and you're going to need that energy because you're going to hibernate. So there's insulation. There's also going to be some protection of your organs and your vital body parts. It's why females hold a lot of fat in their bellies, because we're trying to protect our babies. So there you are there. And there's really two different kinds, and we've probably heard a lot about these guys with saturated fats and unsaturated fats. So saturated fats you can think of as solids at room temperature. So these are things like meat fat, like the white part on a steak, butter, and they're not as good for you, right? And so the basic chemical structure, and I'm going to do a really quick drawing of it. So there's that carbon and oxygen part, and then it's just going to be a bunch of carbons linked together. And every time I draw, I might take a minute. And they're all single bonded. And there's going to be hydrogens to fill its octet, right? So it's going to want all four bonds, blah, blah. So, but you can see it's all just one long chain. And these guys can stack up on each other, and it causes all kinds of problems. So that's saturated fat. Unsaturated fat is things like nuts, found in nuts, and like oils and avocado, as our Californians. So, and the deal with these is somewhere in there's going to be a double bond. And when you have a double bond, it kinks it. It makes it kind of like turn, and we can when you guys play with the molecules. So when it turns, it kinks it, and so these guys can't stack up as much, and so it makes it so it's more fluid. They're a little bit easier. They can absorb extra hydrogen bonds, stuff like that. So, and then obviously there's hydrogens all around that too. So see, it's mostly carbons and hydrogens, and then a little bit of oxygens in there. Okay. So another class is our phospholipids. You guys probably are already saying, where are they found? In the cell membrane. It's like 7th grade science right there. Okay, and the function is they're the barrier. They're the bouncer of the cell. They protect the cell of what goes in and what goes out. If everything else in our world is aqueous and able to dissolve in water, so things like proteins and sugars and stuff like that, if there's these guys are nonpolar, they don't like each other, so it's going to protect what enters, protects the cell, controls what enters and exits. And there's some lovely pictures of all the lipids on pages 30 and 31 of your book. For the chemical structure, obviously we have a phospholipid. We kind of draw them like this a lot of times, where we have the hydrophilic, because that's the part that has, so it's got oxygen and the phosphorus in it. And then we have the hydrophobic tails, long, skinny tails, carbons and hydrogens, long tails going down, all that kind of stuff. Okay. And then in our last one, where are steroids found? Steroids are found throughout the body. Steroids also get a bad rap, but you all have steroids in your body right now because they, so things like this creates cholesterol, which helps maintain our cell membrane. It's our sex hormones, so it's things like testosterone and estrogen. Hey, you all have that in your body. Adrenaline, so it's our flight or flight response. So if there's something big and scary, all those kinds of things. It makes your body function. These are your working fats. I mean, these guys are protecting your cells, the phospholipids. The fatty acids are storing and insulating you. And then these guys are really sending signals all throughout your body. So they're really key. And so where do lipids come from? Some are produced by our body. But most come from our food, right? And we kind of listed some over there. Come from food, and then we modify them and use them for our purposes. And if we eat too many carbs, guess what our body does with it? It turns it into a lipid and stores it for later. So think about, what is the effect of a low fat or no fat diet would have on the organism? Is that going to be a problem? And we'll kind of talk about that in class, what happens when we do that to our bodies.